talking about giving like the information and stuff like that, especially to the Tennessee fans. What is that like being in the city with the university, where you have these rabid fans and they want to hear information, but sometimes it's, do they want to hear that? How does that work out? Because I know sometimes they can be a little.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a different situation. We're not part of the University of Tennessee. We're independent. We write about it whether it's good or bad. So most people sometimes are interested in our opinions, our coverage, because we try and write from a unbiased position. Most newspapers do, or companies like us. We're not a fan, a fan media site, much like some of the websites that are out there. So it's I think sometimes people maybe look for us for answers, and again, in most cases, the most times we have a lot of interest is when the team is either doing very good or when they're doing very bad. The middle is like, okay, but when Tennessee wins big, people are interested. When Tennessee loses bad, people also want to see that, or want to read about it and find out, what happened. We really worry about where we're going to get news from, because there's just so much content. During football season, we always know there's going to be stuff there. But with Title IX lawsuit, with the Lady Vols logo, with now an athletic director search that'll soon be in really fast motion once they hire a chancellor. I mean, it's amazing the amount of news. I mean, and what helps us during basketball season, there's probably more interest in women's basketball than men's basketball, and we cover that. And so we don't have too many slow days. There's no such thing as that. And in fact, we can't have slow days anymore. In the newspaper business, you could survive and have a feature ready to go for 2 days from now or something, but we have to always be ready to give people news, because it's a 24/7 job that that we're in, and it makes it more difficult because we're not just thinking print centric. We're thinking what people want to look online.
Yeah, that's been the biggest difference here recently, as it's been phasing more towards electric media and stuff like that. How, as you mentioned, that's made it more of a 24-hour game.
Yes.
How has that changed, I guess, some of the ways you look at stories, since you have to be right on top of it and get it out almost immediately, or someone's going to beat you to the punch?
You're exactly right. We have to be prepared, and that's what we try and do. Writers, or technology is a great tool because we're able to use it, and we write in a content management system, and stories are ready to go, headlines are written, art's attached, and the whole idea is you don't have to write a full story to start with. 1 or 2 graphs and more details to follow, but that makes it more difficult, because the writers are chasing social media, because there's news out there that always gets pushed out. You want to be first, but you also have to be correct. So it's a fine line, and we're very, that's one of the things that we do. We make sure that our information is correct. If it's something that's sourced, it's not my decision. That goes to an editor, and we talk about who our sources are and things like that. Writers just don't publish something because someone told them something. We have to be really confident on sources, and I think you'll see a lot of papers are shying away from using sources. I shouldn't say papers, media outlets, because the idea is you want to get things right, and you take a chance, and if you're wrong, you look really bad, because people will remember that.
Do you have any advice you would give to people coming into sports journalism, the market and stuff like that?
Yes. Well, as I mentioned, I teach at University of Tennessee, so I deal with students on a weekly basis, and I try and be as truthful as possible. And this is a tough business. It's changed a lot in the last 5 years. It's even changed a lot in 10 years, but it continually changes. Media companies are becoming smaller and smaller. It's more specialized. So it's really important that you're able to do as many tasks as possible. And it's really important to learn to know how to write if you're going to work for a media company. If you're going to, especially if you're going to be a writer, and if you want to, that's your dream to be a sports writer. Because the inability to write is going to be tough. You can't hide that. But the other things you need to, be prepared to learn how to shoot video, cut video, do narrative, talk in front of a camera. I mean, this is not just sitting behind a keyboard anymore. You really have to be it's like in baseball they call like the best players sometimes a 5-tool player. Well, that's what you have to be in sports media. And the thing is, it's not 2 points. It doesn't have to be in sports journalism media. There's so many other outlets. Websites are being created because of it's low cost maintenance, so you're not paying for all this extra stuff that these big media companies are. So you don't have to work. Your goal is to work for the New York Times or Sporting News or the New York Times or whatever. You don't have to. That's not necessarily what it needs to be. And I would say the other thing that's important, and it's really good if you're a young journalist, is that opportunities are out there more than ever because you don't have to have years and years of experience. It's what you can do to reach an audience that people are looking for. So if you can write and do all these other things, but you're technically able to, to reach an audience, to develop your own niche, you can get a job easier than you could 20 years ago. One, because there's, the technology's there, so everyone's kind of, I would say, people that are graduating now have more experience in that type of background than someone that's been in the business for 20 years, because they're struggling, not knowing, because technology keeps on changing. And then the other thing is that because you're trying to reach an audience, you may be able to relate to a younger audience than a veteran journalist. So again, if you really want to do it, don't give up, because sometimes it takes you a couple of years. The job's not going to happen right after you graduate college. Because just think about all the people that you're going up against, all the other people that are there, people that have lost their jobs that are back in the market, the people from 3 years ago that still haven't gotten jobs. So it's a very competitive market.